Iedereen is terug. Volgens mij is dat een cue waarop wij door kunnen gaan. Ik beloof al even, wij gaan zeker nog verder in gesprek. En daarbij wil ik ook zeker jullie input horen. Maar wij gaan hier beginnen met een panel. Sorry, yeah, let's switch to English. I'm so sorry. That's also a bit the dance world. We've been switching between English and Dutch all the time. Thank you very much for pointing that out. We promise that we will have a conversation for a bit more. And we will start with a panel, and I would love to have your input here as well. And we will do that with, of course, Jos Akkermans, who was already here, with Ingetje Wielenga, who was also a former dancer, and we will have a chat about that a bit more. Erik, General Director of Scapino Ballet. And here we have Mirjam ter Linden, who is also a former dancer. Mirjam, before we head off with this panel and we will have a look at some themes, how was your career switch? How was your omscholing?
Yeah, so I danced for 10 years with different choreographers, freelance. But then there were 2 productions that were postponed for a year. And I didn't want to wait for that. I wanted to keep on growing. Felt ambitious. So then I visited the university and I saw all these young boys mostly. They were really eager and enthusiastic about studying. So then I studied computer science at the Universiteit van Amsterdam, followed by a Master of Information Sciences.
That's quite a difference from a cultural dance career. Why was that your first thing that you thought, that's where I need to be?
When I was in secondary school, I always liked the beta subjects. So mathematics and physics, I always liked those best. So, at a very young age, I wanted to be a dancer. But I also thought, like, maybe one day I will do a beta technical university studies. And also I was programming a little bit as a 12-year-old, and I really liked it. So, and then also, while I was dancing, I built some computers, assembled computers, built some websites. So I really liked that.
So yeah, you were already doing that during this. I think some people want to have a website soon, so they will talk to you later. So you were already doing that while dancing, and then at the university, it was not as with Brandon, like, oh, this is not my thing. Visiting one class, you had a really good feeling visiting.
Yeah, and I also prepared myself properly. I went to the VU as well to have a look there. Meeloopdagen and the Universiteit van Amsterdam. So yeah, I had a good idea. But I also chose computer science and not artificial intelligence, for example, because then I hopefully have a chance for a job. Because I was afraid, I will be old when I start. So I really have to find something that I get a job with. And of course, it was really not a problem at all to find a job. So I could have been a little bit more relaxed about that.
So yeah, you were very worried if you could get it. And what were the responses when you started to find a job?
They were very welcoming. So you're a woman, IT, and there was no problem. And also, not the typical nerd, I was able to say something and...
A communicative computer person. Wonderful.
This is it. So it was not a problem at all to find a job.
No. Ingetje, you have also been a dancer. Where did you dance? And can you tell me a bit about your omscholing?
Yeah, I was dancing in Switzerland and freelancing a lot. And then I wanted to move back to the Netherlands, and it was kind of hard to find jobs here. So then it actually naturally came to the thought of doing my omscholing. And I didn't know exactly what I wanted to study. I knew I wanted to study, so I went to the open day of the university, and I maybe ended up in the same law class as Brendan ended up. But for me, a world opened up, actually. I always thought that law was very black and white. And
because you visited law class, like Brendan did,
yes.
But you did like it.
I did like it. And yeah, for me, I discovered that law was not black and white, but that there was a lot of gray and a lot of nuances. And yeah, it was really interesting for me to discover how to navigate that world. So,
but are you still working in law at the moment?
I studied law, and then I did a master's in labor law. Then I worked 5 years as a lawyer, as a labor law lawyer. And then I figured out that actually that wasn't really the job that fitted me. And I had to, search and navigate again what did fit. So I ended up in HR, and I work in a hospital now. And I mainly do the policies and employment conditions. So I work a lot with, actually the legal aspect in HR.
So yeah, but then in a different way. And why does this fit you better?
What I didn't like so much, I mean, it was interesting being a lawyer, but I didn't enjoy so much, the fighting aspects of it. I really noticed that I always wanted to, find good agreements or, bring the parties together. And as a lawyer, you're representing one party, and that was sometimes hard for me not to see the belangen, the needs, the interests. Yes. Thank you, of the other party. And I feel in my position now, I can actually use that as a quality instead of that it's hindering me.
Yeah. Before we continue, you were both freelancers. Yep. That is different from people that have a permanent contract in a company. What happened at Omscholing? How did that work for you, being a freelancer?
Yeah, so I didn't do all the contributions, but Paul did help me a little bit. So, but I did save some money, and so it cost me a lot of money. But there was help, and also I wrote to foundations, fondsenwerving. So I got some money as well for my masters. So in the end, it worked out.
But it's like two directions. It's the money from Omscholing, but it's also the support and the conversations and finding what you want to do.
Yeah, and that was really great. Yeah.
Erik, you are general director of Scapino, but you also had a career switch.
Yeah, in a way I did it reverse direction. I started as I was trained as a lawyer, and I studied business administration. And once I started practicing as a lawyer, within like 3-4 years, I decided to change because it didn't bring any joy, it didn't bring any satisfaction. And I was the neighbor of Jiri Kilian back then, and we spoke about not being happy about my job. And a few months later, he knocked on my door and he said, "We're looking for someone in management, and are you interested?" And that's how I made a change from being a lawyer to working in the cultural field. And I never regretted it 1 second. So yeah.
Here we see it's not a one-size-fits-all. What works for one person doesn't work for the other.
Exactly.
And the other way around. I collected some theses. And I'm curious about your opinion and also about your opinion. And the first one I have here is, I will ask it to you first, Ingetje. Dancers must accept a second career won't be as fun as dancing.
No, they should not accept that. They should accept that it's going to be different.
They should accept that it should be different,
yeah,
but
it is going to be different, but it should, it can also be fun.
As fun as dancing.
Yeah.
How is that for you?
I don't think it is as much fun. So dance was my passion and was very fulfilling. And what I'm doing now is nice, but it's not as great as dancing was.
No. How is that in the audience? What do you think? Dancers must accept that, that second career, and I know you disagree with me on that, will not be as fun as dancing. Who says, they should accept that? Okay, who says it can definitely be as fun as dancing, that second career? Also, that's like a careful hand. What is your opinion on that?
I think it can be equally fulfilling, certainly. And the fun aspects are tied to learning and figuring out new parts of yourself and learning about the vast world that is beyond dance. And I think as a dancer, you also enjoy that constant attitude towards learning more. And if you can take that into your continuing career, then it can be just as fun.
Thank you for that. Are you still a professional dancer or are you in a new career? You don't perform anymore. You're in a new career. Okay.
So I also used to be a former dancer, and knowing that the Omscholingsfonds was there for me before I stopped dancing was fun for me, because I felt like a kid in a candy store. What can I do? I can do this, I can do that. I had all options open because I knew that there was the support of this, which is fantastic. So, and I started there. Number one, open, being open. And ODN gave me the possibility to start from open. And from there, the fun happened. And I found my way and another calling. So fantastic, so thank you.
Are there people who are still dancing who have worries about that or are already looking forward to a new career? Who are the dancers here? How's that for you? Like, do you look at a next career or is it like, I will be dancing forever? It can be.
For me, it's different because I'm still performing, but also organize events. So I'm still also in the cultural field, but I love to perform as well. And I'm specialized in Balinese dance, so I can go on forever.
I'm also on stage still, and I also am. I'm in a situation between everybody who's made the break. I'm now talking to Paul and to Lika about the next step, which interesting. It's just Paul Broncos is always encouraging me to go beyond the dance world. Be brave, and I'm not there yet because I love this world so much. I'm not attached to being a dancer. Before everybody tells me that, I'm not attached to be a dancer. I'm also teaching, so I was telling Brendan in the break, what I get from my students and what I get from a performance are the two things I love, the communication. There's that satisfaction of having communicated with something. So that for me is important. I am excited about where the future is going to be. I have the privilege now of being on stage. Age isn't a problem at the moment for some choreographers, and that's good. Yeah, too much to say.
No, thank you. Jos, I also hear some different paces here, like people that are really going into a second career, but also doing things along your dance career. What is your opinion on that?
I think it's a good thing to do. I mean, if you can combine it, I can imagine that it's not possible for everyone. But I think there's an emerging trend now of what they call multiple job holding. So this is not specifically related to dancing, but it's people having paid job and then something else beside it, either another paid job or some kind of firm that they started as an entrepreneur, or doing some kind of gig work, for example. And there's quite some promise that it can, you talked about transferable skills at the beginning. This can also help you kind of find fulfillment in different roles. I think especially if you do this to kind of soften the blow of the transition, because you've already started doing some other things, it could really help that once this stops, like this picture I showed with the cliff, maybe you don't fall down as deeply because there's already another one that's starting to emerge. Yeah. So I can definitely see the value of doing that, yeah.
Yeah. You already mentioned transferable skills, and I also hear it here a bit like being open to learning new things, being used to developing, to explore new things. What are transferable skills in terms of dancers towards their ongoing career? Ingetje, what can be transferable skills in your opinion?
Yeah, I think definitely like having a goal and working towards that, being focused towards that. When I started studying law, I saw that a lot of my other students didn't have those skills so much. And I think as a dancer, it's so natural that you don't even realize that you have that as a skill. Yeah. And yeah, it's valuable for anything that you will decide to do.
Erik, what kind of skills do you see with your dancers that they can also use somewhere else?
Well, what I think, what you just mentioned, the perseverance and the not letting go and go for it, that is something that we see with dancers. But also being very precise. We have now a few ex-dancers working in production department, and we see that all their work is impeccable in the sense that we don't have to check it. It works because they also see the processes behind touring or performing or. Yeah, this is something that we don't have to educate them in. So this is very, very helpful in an organization. Yeah.
If Scapino hires people outside of the dance department, is that something you consider? Like, oh, they are ex-dancer, that's beneficial for the team?
Yes, of course. This is something that we take in consideration, but not necessarily is that going to be the argument to hire someone. Of course, it depends on different aspects, but yeah, if someone knows what it means to be a dancer, that is something that could be very helpful in a job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We just had a conversation before the break about transferable skills. I'm not sure where you are. What are other transferable skills? Oh, let me come to you, because we just had a talk about that maybe dancers are not always aware of the skills they have that can be beneficial in other jobs.
Yes, so the conversation we had was a little bit more about like if we can be proud of being a dancer. And the conversation before the break gave me a little bit the feeling that we have to apologize ourselves for being a dancer, and it's better not to say that we're dancers. Then Jos and I had a conversation about this, and we agreed that I didn't understand fully and that he was not explicit enough. So one of the things I think is very striking for dancers, and I teach workshops all over the world, and I work with dancers. I just returned from Los Angeles, and the youngest dancer was 18, and the oldest dancer was 56. And they were all working on their skills as dancers and to do a sustainable career in dance. And some of the things that I notice is that dancers are not so aware yet of the multiple skills they have on social aspects of working. Like social aspects in group, like you work often in groups, how you deal with group dynamics, how you find your individual voice versus agreeing with the group, dealing with external feedback, dealing with judgment, your own judgment, other people's judgments. They have to juggle that all the time whilst they're being exhausted. So those are amazing skills that dancers hone.
Thank you. Jos, to get back to that point, can you imagine that there was a little confusion or a little shock about, oh, wait, can I not be a dancer anymore? Or do I have to forget about that?
Yeah, I realized that after all the questions came up. I think I should have defined the word identity a bit more clearly, because everything that was asked and said was true. But let me just make it very clear. I think I did mention it just before the break, but I think there's nothing that dancers cannot do in their new career step, because if I speak, and there's some HR people here, if I speak to HR managers, not in all fields, some fields have very specific required knowledge and skills and certificates, but in many fields what HR and recruiters are looking for is people with reflective skills, communicative skills, teamworking skills. Well, you just said it. This is what dancers do all day, every day. It's about leadership and followership, about being able to deal with sometimes harsh feedback and survive in a competitive climate. This is everything. These are the 21st century skills, how some people call them, that I think almost every employer is looking for. So I think you can be very confident that you'll find that work, whatever it is, because there's so many transferable skills as a dancer. I think the big thing is making them explicit, because people might not realize. I mean, if you have an HR person who's a former dancer, they will know this. If not, they might not have a clue and might even be biased against it for some reason because it's unknown. But there's a big trend also in the Netherlands about a skill-based labor market, so we're moving away from the CV slowly and going towards more of a skills passport. I think this is a wonderful opportunity for former dancers to showcase all of these skills.
Yeah. And Mirjam, I see you nodding as well.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with the team player aspect. So in IT, there's a lot of working together, and this is what you've learned as a dancer. Hey, you work in a group, and you try to make a choreography together. This comes very natural to dancers, I think, in the workforce.
Erik?
Well, I followed two dancers that left Scapino and they transitioned into a new career. And things that I got back, and I could relate to it because I made a transition into the cultural field, is as working as a lawyer, like emotions were not in play. There was you had to leave your emotions at home. Basically, that was the rule. In the cultural field, emotions are much more important. Of course, being a dancer, giving yourself, and emotions are involved. And that is something that could stand in the way of a successful career afterwards. Because if you take this, let's say, this drama to another field, a work field, then you might have to adapt a little bit.
But I think showing a little bit of yourself in the work floor helps for the team.
Of course.
You have to
also pros, but it could also backfire.
I agree
a
completely.
bit.
Ingetje, is that something that you recognize? You come from the law world. That's my assumption, but
I'm generalizing, eh?
Yeah, I know. We all are.
No, yeah, I think it's also important, also in law and also in my work now, to use the emotion. In situations that you get angry, of course, not to express that anger as a shouting, but it is also a signal that something is unjust what is happening, and in that sense, I think I do use my emotions also outside of the dance world.
Jos, is that something that is changing also through time? That maybe in the past emotions weren't as much accepted at the work floor as they are nowadays?
Yeah, I do think it's changing, but at a very different pace in different industries. Like in law, for example, I think it's one of the more traditional areas where it's less common, but I think across sectors we do see, well, things also, which is not necessarily emotions, but things like work-life interactions, like people caring, not just about always being at work, but, caring about family, for example. I think it's becoming more common to speak up about that. I think companies are taking it into account more often, but it's also a kind of a long road. So I do think that sometimes it can be good to take into account these scripts that exist, although that can also backfire. So we do know from a long tradition of psychology research that if you engage in what we call emotional labor, so acting certain emotions or pretending that they're not there, that can also lead to serious mental health issues if you do it too long. So maybe then that world would not be the best place.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe for some it is, but I can imagine that if you're very emotional and you're in a world that kind of prohibits that, this fit might not be entirely there.
Yeah, it's finding the best fit. I have another thesis I want to put out there. The responsibility for a dancer's second career or continuing career shouldn't only be on the dancer. Erik, what do you think?
Well, I think, it has to be like a shared effort. I agree on that. But
Shared between who?
Between the employer and the dancer. It's a conversation. I mean, maybe I'm talking as the director of a company that has people dancers on the payroll. And then you have, usually twice a year, you have talks about how things are going. Are they going in the right direction? And then you also talk about the future. Probably less with young dancers, but dancers that are approaching the 30s or 35 years of age, then you start talking about this. And then you, of course, we always have the Omscholingsfonds, but it's something that comes up in the last years more than it used to come up in the conversations with dancers.
And why is that? Why did it change?
I think the Omscholingsfonds is one of the reasons, because we have this structure here. There is help that you can ask for, and maybe that makes the conversation a bit easier. Also for the employers, because we don't have to come up with the solution by ourselves. There is an institution that can help and that has a lot of experience in that field. Yeah. But mainly, of course, it's the responsibility of the dancer, of course.
Ingetje, do you also feel it that way?
Yeah, I think the dancer needs to open. You have to, as a dancer, you have to open your vision to dive within yourself, to see where you want your path to be going. But as a employer, I think you have a big role also in helping in that discussion. I also now with my boss, I also speak about my career and the future of that and how I want to develop that. And of course, as a dancer, that's a different conversation.
Mirjam.
Yeah, but if you then think of freelance productions, I cannot imagine that the freelance companies, productions, can take care of what is happening to the dancers afterwards. They have already enough difficulty with having enough money to get the production on stage and having enough performances. So then it's great that there is an omscholingsregeling. So yeah.
Well, also because I hear a lot of great skills that come from dancers. I moderate quite some conferences, and in every world I come nowadays in these weeks, the main concern is people. We need people. Can there also be your responsibility more at the government or at future employers to get these wonderful people with wonderful skills out there in the field?
Definitely. I think, I mean, this is one of the reasons why I emphasized context, right? It's also supply-demand dynamics at the labor market. If you're in a time of shortage, when there's more jobs than people, the initiative lies with the employers. They have to brand themselves. They have to recruit people and lure people to them. This is a time we're currently in. So I always try to tell my students also, they're really nervous and they say, I got this offer, now I have to take it. I said, do you like it? Not that much, but at least they found something. I said, they should be very happy to have you. And I think the same applies to all the dancers that go into a new role, especially in a time of shortage. It's not just that you should be happy that someone is willing to take you on. They should be very happy that you're willing to use all those talents to be there, because many people with so many skills can choose.
Yeah.
And I know this is a selective sample, because in a meeting like this, we invite people who can give examples of how they succeeded. But I think there's already enough really beautiful examples of how you can make it work in very different ways after the dancing career, to speak it in those terms.
Was
So
anyone here ever approached on LinkedIn or whatever for a job? I don't think so. Huh?
But are dancers active on LinkedIn? Is it like the platform?
Are there any dancers
I don't know. I know
that are
some
active
businesses
on
are really
LinkedIn?
not.
What? Yeah, quite a few. So what? Do you use it? Do you use it for your other career outside of dance? You plan events. You're still a dancer, but do you use it to look around at companies, see what is out there? Maybe I can go to a law school day. Maybe. You will. Other things? No, it's interesting. I mean, yeah. On LinkedIn, I can imagine that there are quite some companies that would be very happy with dancers. Therefore, also this thesis, every employer should be glad to have a dancer on their team. What do you think, Erik?
Well, the type of skills that dancers in general have is something very important to have in a team. That I'm convinced of. Can a team be successful without a dancer? I'm sure also.
That's quite strong, yeah.
But to have this specific type of skills within your team could be very beneficial. Yeah.
We, of course, had HR here. Sorry for branding you that way. You already pointed it out. What do you think? Everyone should be happy to have a dancer on their team?
I should say yes in this environment, though. Yeah, no, it's hard to say in general yes, because it is an individual something. But if we talk in general, yes, I would say that yes, because it can bring a lot to your company.
Some hands, yeah.
Thank you. Yes, it's a thought that came before already, and now hearing this thesis again, it does put a big target on the dancer's back. In terms of like, we hear, oh, but the dancers have great skills. They're going to succeed anyway in whatever they do. I'm like, I developed my skills, whether soft or hard skills, whatever, in a dance environment. So I'm a team building player in a dancing environment. I am goal driven, I'm resilient. But that's what I know. It's about dance. So to hear that somebody wants to recruit a dancer because they're a dancer, well, that's also quite impactful of a person that wants to approach a new career. So I wanted to ask you, like, for example, how was it for you in your change? Did you feel this pressure, or like, were you, oh yeah, but you're a dancer, you're for sure gonna do good at that? Well, I can also fail maybe, if it's outside of my sector.
I'm from Introdance. I'm very proud to have Alberto on the team, and I think it's very important that we really want him on the team because he's very good in his job. And he's a dancer, but he's really good in his job. So that's very important.
Thank you for that. But yeah, to get back to that point, there's maybe also some pressure. To talk about pressure, I think, can I speak in general to say that dancers are used to striving for the highest? We want a beautiful aesthetic picture on stage. We want a very high level because there's huge competition. What role does that play in other careers? Mirjam?
Competition in so...
Well, do you feel that you always have to strive for the highest, like to step that stairs, to take another step on the stairs?
In dance, for me, it was very extreme. So you have to be really, really good. And in the world I'm in now, you do your best, but it's not constantly like you have to show everything constantly. So that's really nice. It gives some stability and continuity.
Yeah, Ingetje.
Yeah, I think when I started law school, I did start law school as I did my dance career, and that made it really competitive for me. And in the beginning, in my work as well, and I really had to kind of make a shift also to see work also more as. Maybe that is the idea of that it's sustainable, that you cannot always, be on your premiere mode, let's say. And because as a dancer, also when I was freelancing, it's so much, you really work towards a premiere, and then it's kind of, you have this kind of waves, in your work. And as a lawyer, it's just, if you approach it like that, you just always stay there. And you have to find a different way of or at least for me, I had to find a different way of working with this kind of pressure that you put on yourself to strive, because you want to, get the most out of it.
Are there any questions to these people here? Let me get up there. Great exercise.
Maybe also an observation, because we're talking a lot about transferable skills and skills in general. I hear an amazing amount of skills that we all possess as dancers. I feel like we're missing out on one of the most key ones, and that's the creative skills, creativity, especially now in the world where we are going, like Jos already said it, that we're going more towards these skill-based resumes and portfolios, and creative skills are very important these days. Now maybe a question for you too then. Do you feel like you had any creative skills that you could kind of convey in your job right now? I mean, I guess into like IT, like coding, it requires some creativity as well. Maybe inside law, or did you connect any of those?
For me, I feel in IT there's a lot of creativity. You really build something, you really make something, some functionality that wasn't there before. And that really, that makes IT very nice. I really like that about IT. It's not just about meetings and talking with each other, but you really have a result and something that might look really good as well. And you can show to people like, yeah, this form, it's just a form on the website or something, but you build it, it's working, and you really create something. I like that about it.
Yeah, I also see my work in that sense as creative. Maybe it's not as expressive. You know, that's, I think, a lot of people, when they think about creativity, it's about like expressing something. And of course, that is something that, yeah, it looks really different in my work now, because my expression is now speaking with other people, sometimes maybe presentation, but it's in that sense not expressing this deeper thing that's happening inside you. What is your art as a dancer? But yeah, I think for me, law is very creative. I mean, yeah, you create new text, you create new connections. But yeah, it's a different form of creativity.
Maybe that's the skill right there, because I think a lot of people might think, you know, IT or law, it's kind of, you know, the same old, kind of boring, but you see the creative side of it. Maybe that's because you were a dancer and you're better able to see the creativity. Which is kind of nice, right?
Hi, I just wanted to have a super good, by the way, Wouter, what you said about the creativity. I think that is very important that we bring it back to the conversation. But I wanted to reflect also about the skills that we were talking and what Giuseppe was speaking about, that fear that dancers have about failing. And I feel it myself, I feel it now more than ever. Even if, yeah, thank you for the people that has trusted me and they say like, okay, you are going to be fine. I believe it, but with myself, there are moments that you doubt it. And I think that where I also want to ask to many people that they are here, that they are not dancers, and that you have people that they are making this transition, is how you talk to the people that they are in that moment. I remember when I first started to work with Paul and with Lieke, I think that there were people also that they started to take me very, very bloody serious from the very moment that I said I want to become a marketeer. And that is very, very important. We are very insecure, and all of you have, in that moment, you are very vulnerable. And there is very few people that they dare to talk to you as an adult and listen to you. And that is very, very crucial for development and takes away all the wall. So please, for the people that you are going to be with, that people in that transition, do that.
Thank you for that. I see a lot of nodding to that point.
I just want to add to Alberto about doubting. When you're open in doubt, it's actually a very positive thing. Doubt is not necessarily negative, because you're still open to search what would be the right thing. So doubt as a positive, being open.
Can I just add one thing here, because I think
Absolutely.
It's really important what you're saying there, because I think to many outside people, also the people hiring you later on who don't know dancing, they will not expect you to be so insecure, because what they see of you is this performer who's on stage showing like really high level skills, being among the best at what they do. I don't think they would naturally expect you to be very insecure. So that's why, coming back to your thesis about is it a shared responsibility, and maybe omscholing can play a vital role there as well. Recruiters, HR, they need to also know about this, so that people know that you're not just all really confident, super skilled people. You're just people who are very insecure that you're going into a very new direction, and conversely help you to build that confidence. Because I think there's a lot to be confident about, but I actually didn't even fully realize it until hearing all these examples as well. So this is really crucial that people realize this. I wouldn't have expected it.
And I think it's also important to notice that we're talking about people that dancers that do reschooling and are being hired by a company. But I see from the recent cases from Scapino that people get themselves a freelance practice. So they have to invent their own practice by themselves.
Yeah.
So it's not that everybody is joining a company. I see a lot of former dancers, for instance, physiotherapists. They start their own practice. So many dancers are looking for a more independent course.
Yeah. So to summarize all we heard so far, which is quite a lot, I think what we heard is that a second career can be as fun as dancing, but it's a little search, and that is okay, and also to be insecure about new steps and what skills you are bringing, and that it doesn't always have to be at the high level you are used to work, that you are allowed to fail and to explore. What am I missing about this conversation? Other points?
Use your creativity.
Use your creativity.
Well, and what I think is very important is that you have to be in control, in the sense that you should not start thinking about it too late. You should start thinking about this transition way before it really has to happen. So that you're not forced to make decisions that you would not make in case you would have more time.
Yeah. And maybe within creativity, with a lot of openness, just play and just go to a class and discover that it's not your thing. Or go to a class and decide that you love certain aspects of it. And try out a new job, try out new skills along your dance career. I really want to thank you all. Jos, Ingetje, Erik, Mirjam, thank you very much for being here.